All right, here we go. NCAA tournament time. He's Tim. I'm Brian. You guys knew all that as we're getting you ready for the NCAA tournament. We're here for the next hour, leading you into Orange Nation today. We're talking Syracuse women's basketball, Tim, here in the NCAA tournament. We still don't know who they're playing, even though we've already watched the selection show. This will be the first time Syracuse gets to play the winner of a play-in game. Auburn and Arizona play on Thursday evening in Connecticut. The Orange will get the winner of that Saturday at 3:30 in Storrs. So here's what we got over the next hour. We plan to be joined shortly by the head coach of the Orange. She is Felicia Legette-Jack. We'll be talking to some players. We expect Georgia Woolley, Dyaisha Fair, and Elena Rice before the end of the hour. But, man, this is why you play the whole year, right? Here we go. It's time.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure. I mean, you go back to the first day of the season. I remember looking at the opening bracketology in the preseason from Charlie Cream, and I believe he had Syracuse as one of the last four in, or definitely a bubble team. And here they are last night. It was a great event, good turnout from the fan base for the watch party over at Apex Entertainment. And you knew there was no doubt they were getting their name called. It was just a matter of where are they going and what seed line. There was some conversation. Would they be a 5 seed? Would they be a 6 seed? They end up on the 6 seed line and a potential second-round game against UConn, which is intriguing for a lot of reasons because UConn's a power. But, you know, for the first game, it should be exciting because that's pretty close proximity for the fans to come out and hopefully put on a good home court advantage of sorts for Syracuse.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. The Orange play Saturday at 3:30 at Gamble Pavilion in Storrs. All right, let's get it going. We have on, she's a lot of things. She's the ACC Coach of the Year. She's headed to the tournament as a head coach for the 5th time as we bring in Felicia Legette-Jack. And, Coach, congrats on last night. I know it's, when you know you're going to hear your name called, it's maybe, I don't know what it's like, but what was the moment like as you're waiting to see Syracuse pop up on the screen last night?
It's always exciting. And it's always, that little belly thing happens where you're a little still nervous and, you wonder, like, did they mess up again or whatever? But, I just love this from our players. I love the enthusiasm these young ladies had last night. And the people that showed up to be a part of that watch with us was just magical. We're changing the way people see women's basketball here, one fan at a time. And I think it's about 200 to 300 people came to the mall to be with us. So thank you. Kudos to Apex for allowing us to come and be a part of their facilities to have that moment.
Coach, you talked about the enthusiasm from the players. I think they were about as happy as any team that was featured on the selection show last night. And I got a kick out of just being at the event. Like you said, great turnout. And as soon as the players are jumping up and down and hear the Syracuse name, I saw you kind of duck around to see who are we playing. You kind of went into coach mode a little bit to see who the matchup is, and I guess we don't exactly know who it's going to be yet, but what did you make of the overall draw, knowing that it is going to be either Auburn or Arizona in that first game for your team?
Everybody's really good at this time, and anything can happen, and it's March Madness that they call it, and so I don't really have a thought process. I just know that we got to bring our A game because they're going to bring their A game, and they play in some incredible conferences, and they played against some amazing teams in their conferences, as we had too, number one conference in the country. So what I said to our team and our coaches, just stay locked on ready, and everybody's going to throw their best punch. Make certain we throw our best punch as well.
Coach, how different is this playing the winner of a play-in game? Because, normally this comes up, like you see the team and you can launch like right in, hey, we're playing Team X. Let's get some film. This is what we do. We're getting ready for the game. Now you're sitting here. You don't know. How does that change how you handle prep this week than when you know the team you're going into?
It usually is the 5 seed that has the team that we have to wait to see who plays. And now we're 6 and we get the same kind of situation. I don't know how this works because we never had this experience before. Coming from Buffalo, we were usually the lower seed and we were usually playing whoever. And so this is really interesting how we're going to have to sit and wait. And I don't like the waiting game at all. I like to be prepared and being able to watch film on just one team. I'm like tunnel vision, but it is what it is. And you don't have the right to say what you want. You just got to react to what you get. And we're responding well. My coaches are breaking down both teams right now. And I'm helping a little bit that I do. And Right now, I tell my players, let's just focus on us. Let's figure out how we're going to get better defensively, offensively, and get those shots up in the air. And then on Thursday, we figure it all out, and then we play them.
Yeah, that's been one of your big messages throughout the season, Coach. Focus on your team first, and I think that's well said. Just overall, we were just talking about how I remember looking at the first preseason bracketology, and your team was pegged to be a bubble team. And, you know, there was no doubt last night that you were going to get your name called. You're a 6 seed. Just how proud have you been of this team overall and the season they've had to this point?
Well, you know, it started in June when they came here, you know, from all over the country, all over the world, and they just put their head down and got up at 6 a.m. and they worked out, and we got a strength coach on our team. It was finally first time ever, and they got pushed harder than they did last year, and we also you know, had some issues. You know, I got sick a little bit, and they had to respond accordingly, and they became a player-led team, and they did some fun things there. And I'm excited about their growth as young women and people, and then their sisterhood kicked in. I'm so excited that, you know, we're not just growing a basketball team, we're growing sisters for life.
Felicia Legette-Jack is with us. We're getting you ready for the Syracuse women's basketball. Yet another year in the NCAA Tournament, 6th seed. They'll be playing Saturday at 3:30 against the Thursday night's winner of Auburn at Arizona. Games to be held in Storrs, Connecticut at Gamble Pavilion. And, Coach, you know, I look back, it's always strange this time of year, right? Especially the way, like, these major conference tournaments operate in women's basketball, where they're a week earlier. Like, you're in this rhythm. You're going Tuesday or Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. You'll have played one game in 3 weeks by the time you tip it off on Saturday. How do you handle that? I mean, obviously a lot of practice and stuff, but how strange is it to get to the most important time of the year and not be in that, you know, twice a week rhythm that you've been in?
Well, we gave some time off. You know, we're the only team that had to play 18 games straight. Thursday, Sunday. And the only time that we had off is the last week, and then we had to go and play Florida State, and we weren't ready. You know, we weren't ready. We played that fourth quarter like we normally would play a whole game, and I wish that we can redo the first 3 quarters over. But at the end of the day, we've been here before. We understand the assignment, so we gave some time off, and now we're slowly coming back to get in the gym, and it just gives us more time together and gives us more kind of fun days ahead of ourselves. And now we just got to buy time together. How do you buy time? You survive in advance, buy more time and more weeks together. So it is what it is, and this is all. We're a novice at this thing. We're trying to figure it out together. But one thing I know for certain, we're going to play a lot different than we did the last game that we entered in the ACC tournament, because that bad taste is still in our mouths.
Have Isa Verajao available for the ACC tournament. She was out with an illness. I was just wondering if there's any update you can give the fans on maybe what her status will be for that first game on Saturday.
Today she'll be practicing alone for the first time with the coach, and then we're going to gingerly get her back moving as we get closer to the end of the week. And our goal and our hope is to get her in at least 10 to 15 minutes a game on the Saturday, and buy some more time and have her play again on hopefully Monday when we play our next opponent. So we're counting her in, and I could be wrong. It could be a flare-up. Who knows? But I know that she's her being in the gym and with us, it means a lot more. Last time we went to ACC without her because she couldn't go. But she'll be with us no matter what. And if she can get on that court to help us, that's extra. And she's playing at a high octane. She's a special young lady, and she demands attention. So we're excited about her possibly coming back, but we're still not certain how it's going to all work out.
Go figure, Coach. You're going back out to a place you did one of those preseason scrimmages this year. So I realize it wasn't a game that counted or was open to the public. Does it help? You know, this team has been in the building. You've seen the surroundings, and you've done all that before this year.
Yeah, you know, it was, you know, I have such respect for Gene R.E.M. He actually recruited me when I was a high school kid, and he was at Virginia, and we've always had a relationship, and it formed into a friendship, and I'm so grateful for his expertise and his ability to pour into our program in any capacity, and allowing us to go to scrimmage at his place was really amazing to do. And so he didn't have Paige because she was out, and we didn't have Georgia, and so we didn't have two of our key players when we were there. But we just learned so many things from each other. I hope I taught him some things, and he certainly taught me a lot. And it'll be neat to see those teachable moments come to light. If that's the case, that means we got past the first game. So, it all works out in the end the way it's supposed to, and we're just going to continue to give our best effort.
Yeah, you talk so much about how this team has a story to tell, and it is kind of storybook in a way that you went there at the start of the preseason, and now it's kind of coming full circle. The team will make a trip out to Storrs, and the team's made a lot of growth from that point on. But just taking a step back and from your team, and just want to get your thoughts on the overall NCAA tournament and the hype around the women's game, I think, is at an all-time high right now. There's so many stars in the game. Dyaisha Fair is one of them. Caitlin Clark. I think everyone's filling out their brackets this morning. And, you've been around the game for a while. Just how excited are you to see that the women's game is kind of in the national spotlight in a big way this season?
To God be the glory. I just think these young ladies have been working so hard and been doing so many things in the dark. And, the few people that's been watching women's basketball has been really locked in. And now to see it on the major stage, and Good Morning America is interviewing our people, and CBS Sports, and they're on Fox Sports. All these people are saying we are good enough to have their attention, and once they get on their programs and on their storyline, they realize, what the heck, we've been missing out on some really amazing people who don't even just play the game really well, but their stories are so enlightening and positive, and it has so much passion and so much compassion, and what have we been missing? And now they're realizing it's not us getting better, always been good. It's just finally they have decided to give us a chance to come see us, and they're realizing they've been missing out.
Coach, before we let you go and let you get ready for this week, you have coached Dyaisha Fair for a lot of games now over the last 5 years. Whether it's this week, next week, the week after, the time draws to a close. How do you think you guys are going to absorb that as you go attack the most important games of her career right now?
Well, time is on our side right now. As long as we have time, we got moments to be able to be yelled at by her, and yelled at by me, because she yells at me too now. At 5th year, she thinks she got some answers that I need to listen to. So we not just coaching players anymore. We're friends, and she's a person I grew to admire, and I respond to all the things she shares with me on that basketball court. And I hope that I can be of help for her. And I just love this young lady. She's done the work. She put her head down when nobody's watching, when everybody's watching. She stayed the same, stayed consistent. She stayed locked on humility. That's a word that's a lost word in sport now, that humility. I get good enough, so now you got to see me and I got to show off, and not her. She stays locked on humility, discipline, hard work. And I just think that whoever gets her step, if she trusts you, you got to star. But you got to work for that one word that I think that I've earned from her, and that word is trust. And so I'm not ready to let her go. I'm never going to be ready to let her go. She was talking to me about her next coach and everything. I'm like, no. Don't talk to me about your next coach. I'm always going to be your only coach. So I'm not ready for that. So we got to steal some wins so I can stay with this young lady as long as I can.
There we go, Coach. Well, I know you got a star, so she must trust you. We're looking forward to watching you guys in the tournament this year. Thanks so much for hopping on, and best of luck this week and however far it goes this year, Coach.
Thank you so much. We're just going to hopefully we can represent this community, this athletic department, and this university in the best way we can. One thing you can count on is that we're going to be passionately aggressive about representing them all.
Excellent. Thank you. There's Felicia Legette-Jack joining us here, Tim, on the show. And, Dyaisha will join us coming up in about 15 minutes. Georgia Woolley will be on in just a few. Elena Rice to end our show. And there she is, getting ready to go in the tournament. It's you can feel the passion and the whole thing like we always do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't need any extra motivation, but I think it is, she knows that last time around the ACC tournament game did not go according to plan. And I thought it was interesting how confident she is that, they're going to do some things differently this time around, practice differently, and try and get the team ready. I mean, I think it is a little underrated, if anything, that, yes, this team has been in a lot of close games. They've been on some big stages this year. But outside of Dyaisha Fair, Georgia Woolley played in a tournament game. You could say Dominique Camp also played, but she's not available. Sanaya Wilson played just 7 minutes for Buffalo in the one tournament game. So, this is kind of a new experience for a lot of players on this team. And obviously, they're going to go in with high expectations given how the season has been. But, I think they'll take some lessons from that ACC tournament loss about kind of how to perform on a bigger stage.
Yeah, because that's what we know this time of year, and that's what they found out in that game is you don't have 10 minutes to figure it out necessarily in the tournament. Like, if you're like a 1 seed, you might have 10 minutes to figure it out. We've seen parity. It used to be like none of the favored teams lost.
Right.
Now it's, all right, the top 4 seeds are probably good in the first round.
Because they're home, right? Yeah.
Everyone else... Not that there's a ton of upsets, but everybody else better mind their P's and Q's because it's not easy anymore in the first couple rounds.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, they were right on the bubble, I'd say, for a 5 seed or a 6 seed. And it seemed like once I saw Baylor come off the board last night as a 5 seed, it felt like that was the team that was going to push Syracuse to the 6 seed line. But that is a difference. Now you got a play-in team, and it's a power conference team. I mean, I was kind of thinking maybe they'll see Florida Gulf Coast. It was always tough. But Drake, Richmond, one of those teams that won their league, it's a little bit of a different experience going against a power conference team and a team that is coming off a win already in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, expect Georgia Woolley to be joining us here momentarily. Just looking at the bracket here, and obviously it pops. Like when you get sent to Storrs, which is Connecticut. And I get UConn is, quote, only a 3 seed this year. For them, this is like, how dare they only be a 3 seed? But they've been beset by injuries all year. They still have Paige Beckers. They're still an excellent basketball team. It's easy to get caught up in that, right? But that's not the first game.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things that you got to win a game. I think back to 2017, Syracuse was in a similar situation. They were an 8-9 game in Storrs. They ended up actually boat racing an Iowa State team by hitting just a ton of threes. In the ball game, but it's one of those things you just don't know what you're going to do in a building like that contains all the history and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, it should be a great crowd considering that Storrs has UConn has such a great fan base overall. And I do think that first round game, you would hope that it's a largely orange crowd considering it's Arizona or Auburn. Mm-hmm. And that's, proximity wise, Syracuse is much closer. Fans can drive to the game. There's a lot of alumni in that area already. So it's going to be interesting. I think both those teams, Arizona's playing really well. You look at their record, 17-15. They're an 11 seed, but that's in the Pac-12, which is right up there with the ACC. And then even the SEC is right up there as one of the best conferences year in and year out in the women's game that the Auburn is coming from. So, I mean, one thing I did look at right away with both these teams, because it's been a key this season for Syracuse, is how good of a rebounding team are each of these teams. And it does seem like Arizona and Auburn are not spectacular on the glass, which I think is a positive. It was good to hear that hopefully Isa Verja will be available for Syracuse in that first game on Saturday. And, that was a thing that kind of hurt them against Florida State. And it feels like when they rebound well, they're a really strong team. And that's going to be kind of a key going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. And, I look at the situation. I heard all the analysts on ESPN last night talking about it, Charlie Cream, friend of the show, and all those people talking about it, that regardless of who wins this game, it feels like Saturday is going to be a matchup of tempo, right? Like Syracuse will want to go fast, as we know, but both of those teams are kind of slow down operations. Looks like.
And really good defensive teams. Specifically Auburn, you look at on her hoop stats, they rank basically your offense and your defensive efficiency. And Auburn has the 15th best defense and the 115th best offense. So they're definitely defensive-minded, and that's a good point. I mean, we've seen Syracuse struggle in some of those games where it gets slowed down. I think of the Duke game because they play such a defensive-minded style. But at the same time, I think regardless of who they see, whether it's Arizona or Auburn, it is going to be interesting just how they play in the first 5-10 minutes because it is a long break, and that's been kind of the troublesome spot of some of the games for Syracuse. They've been more of a second-half team, so it's going to be important to get off to a good start. But at the same time, I think if Syracuse plays well, they will win that first game. It's just a matter of how are they going to bring it in terms of urgency and toughness.
Yeah, and then, hey, we go way back to the beginning of the year. And are we allowed to talk about the secret scrimmages now? Is that good now, 5 months later?
Coach Jack did post a photo from there.
That's how we actually all knew she was back in the mix.
Right.
Like after her surgery before the year, we saw her like, oh, there's Felicia with Gina, huh? I guess she's I guess she's back there now. Like, I always find that if you are playing, and again, this is not, like the last 2 times Syracuse played UConn in the tournament, you were still like in invincible UConn territory. Like the national championship game was shortlist one of the best teams of all time. The team they ran into in the second round the year after was still in there, whatever it was at the time. They'd won like 120 games in a row or something like that. If Syracuse gets through Saturday, and I get what Coach Jack said, and this is important, Paige Beckers did not play in that game, and she is by far UConn's best player. But when you've played them before, like I found this in 2016, Syracuse played South Carolina twice in 2015. They played them in the Bahamas, I think, somewhere islandy, and then they ran into them in South Carolina in the tournament. Nearly beat them in the Bahamas. We don't need to talk about the second one. That didn't go great. They lost by like 50. So when they played them again in the Sweet 16 next year, this big bad 1 seed, they'd all played them before. So I think that stuff happens. Like it's a little less scary to walk into that when you've been on the court with these players before. Yeah,
no, I think it's a positive for Syracuse overall. It will be an amazing game if it comes to that. The other thing to consider is Coach Jack was in Storrs in 2019 with Buffalo and played them pretty tight that year as well. They were a 10 seed. Sort of upset. 7-seed Rutgers got to play 2-seed UConn at their home court in the second round. Similar type of scenario. I think this time around they would feel they have probably a better shot of winning. And that wasn't Dyaisha Fair Buffalo team. That was sort of before Dyaisha was a member of the team. But they still played them pretty well there. So there's definitely a relationship there between Coach Jack and Gino, as she talked about. And Dyaisha Fair probably has a relationship with them, too, because I know Gino recruited Dyaisha when she was in the transfer portal from Buffalo to Syracuse. All right, let's bring in our next guest here of our women's basketball NCAA Tournament preview show. So, again, we're getting ready for Syracuse, 3:30 Saturday afternoon, taking on either Auburn or Arizona. We'll bring on Georgia Woolley right now, the Orange women's basketball team. Georgia, congrats. Let's start with last night. What's the moment like? I know you guys knew you were in the tournament, but what's it like to see your name on the screen?
Hey, guys. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was exciting. I feel like it was like all the names kept coming, and then finally ours came up. So we were excited just to know where we were going and just be a part of it all.
We were just talking about how you guys did go and play at UConn in a closed scrimmage earlier in the season. What do you remember about that experience, and do you think that could help your team this time around, knowing that you did make the trip to Storrs once this year?
Yeah, I think that could definitely help us. I think playing them early in the season, I think we're excited to maybe see them in March. So, that could possibly happen. We have a first game we have to get over first before that, but I'm excited for that opportunity.
It's kind of weird here, Georgia, playing a play-in game winner here, because you're sitting here, the bracket turns over. Hey, who are we playing? And we still don't know who we're playing. How do you handle getting ready when you're not going to know till, 9 o'clock or so Thursday night who you guys are playing on Saturday?
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different, but I think, it just adds to the excitement of the whole March thing, right? After that game, you don't know who you're about to play either, so it's just one game earlier.
And Georgia, this is your second time in the NCAA tournament. You played in a game against Tennessee when you were at Buffalo as a freshman. Is there anything you can draw back on from that experience and maybe change your approach going into this time around into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think you just learn from every experience you have. So just taking what happened in that tournament and then moving it into this one, you kind of already know the expectation, what it's going to be like a little more. So I think that can only help.
Let's go back to that game. Like, does the intensity hit you from the start of a tournament game? What's like the initial feel? Ball in the air, ready to go. NCAA tournament. How different, if at all, does that feel from a regular season game?
Yeah, I mean it's survive and advance. If you don't win, the season's over. So there's a lot of importance on that moment, that every possession, that game. So it's exciting. I love that sort of situation.
What about kind of reflecting on the ACC tournament game? Brian and I were talking about how it's sort of weird how the schedule is lined up here. This will be just your second game in about 3 weeks. And what do you take away maybe from the experience of how the ACC tournament went and maybe the appropriate mindset and practices and everything that you need to have going into the NCAA tournament game, which is going to be after a long break without a game for your team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the ACC tournament did not go the way we wanted at all, but we've really bounced back and we've had some great practices and we're where we need to be as a team right now. So I think that we just got to continue this over the next few days leading up into the weekend, and it's going to be exciting for sure.
Take us back to the beginning of the season, Georgia. I mean, it's been quite a journey, has it not, to get where you guys are? You know, last year, first in the Cuse, you get to kind of the edge of the bubble. This year, you know, I know you had expectations of the tournament, but what was it like from November until now to realize the expectations that you had at the start of the year?
Yeah, I think that every game we just realize more and more that a tournament team, we're a high-seeded tournament team, and that's where we belong this year. And I think that we've put in all the work, and now it's just time to show the world what we better do.
And Georgia, you were with Coach Jack at Buffalo, like we talked about. You went to the NCAA tournament with her. You make the decision to kind of follow her to Syracuse. Give us some insight, if you could, on just how much fun it is to play for Coach Jack, and maybe some of your favorite parts about being one of the players for Coach Jack in practices and in game situations.
Yeah, playing for Coach Jack, I always say it's just amazing. I followed her here for a reason because I love playing for her. I love who she is as a person, as a coach. So she definitely has some funny moments. I never know how to round it down to one or two. So I just think that it's just fun, and that's why I'm here. I love playing the game, and I love playing the game for my coach.
Georgia Woolley is our guest, and we know this, between Buffalo and here, you've also played your entire career with Dyaisha Fair. And we've watched Dyaisha, you know, set all the records, to climb all the lists, and do all of that this year. And the time runs short when you're a fifth-year senior, right? Is whenever this season ends, that is going to be it for her at the college level. What do you expect these last few games, however they may be, playing with her to be like?
I think that whoever we're playing has to be ready because she's going to put on a show. I already know that. So I think it's just going to be exciting to watch her on this stage. She's done so many amazing things this season, and maybe not being talked about quite enough of the accomplishments she's really had. And I'm excited to see her on that stage and just continue to be recognized for how much of an amazing basketball player and person that she is.
Georgia, you talked about how practice has been going good, and kind of the build-up to Saturday will be the first game at 3:30 against either Arizona or Auburn. What do you think the coaching staff is really trying to harp on in practices this week and try and make sure that you guys correct maybe from that ACC tournament game against Florida State?
Yeah, I think just a lot of just going hard and playing hard defensively, offensively, knowing who we are. And I think we went away from that a little bit, but just running that floor, being strong on the boards, because that's who we are. So just getting back to, you know, what we know and how we play. And I think that's what the focus is right now.
Lastly for you, Georgia, here, and you know, you look at women's basketball this season, we've seen this over the last decade. The attention on the sport has grown exponentially. And this year, call it the Caitlin Clark effect or whatever you like, it is really blown up. How have you guys noticed that of just the general attention of your sport, you know, growing here in the last few years?
It's amazing. It's great. Like, I think I was looking at a stat yesterday with all the Power 5 tournaments and the viewership and everything like that. And it's amazing to see as a women's basketball player growing up and it not having as much attention when you're watching it, you know, growing up and seeing all that sort of thing. But now that we're in the thick of it and it is getting that attention, it's going to continue to rise, and I love to see it.
All right, Georgia, thanks so much for hopping on for a few. Best of luck in the tournament. We look forward to watching on Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
There she goes, Georgia Woolley, Tim. And, you know, I think, especially Georgia and Dyaisha, like, the fact that they played it in one of these games before, and I get it, it's only one. But, man, like, when you get the taste, like, that sticks with you for a while.
Absolutely. And just looking back on that ACC tournament game, I mentioned some of the players for Buffalo that played in that game. I thought Sanaya Wilson was one of the few bright spots, really, in that loss to Florida State. And, Coach Jack said after that game that we need to learn kind of how to play on a stage like this. So I think Dyaisha and Georgia are going to be ready to go from the jump just because they have that experience. And then you think about Alyssa Latham, a freshman, Sophie Burrows, a freshman. Now they kind of got a taste of a bigger stage at the ACC tournament, and hopefully they can build off that experience. But it's definitely a good point just to bring up that, Georgia played pretty well in that NCAA tournament game. She had 15 points. She had 7 steals in that loss they had to Tennessee. They played them pretty close in Knoxville. And Dyaisha Fair did her thing. I think she had 20 or more points like she always does, seemingly. And
25.
25. Yeah, it's just, another game for her. So it's going to be interesting. I think really we're going to know 5 or 10 minutes into that game on Saturday how good that team is and how ready they are, or how ready Syracuse is for that stage.
Yeah, I think we see in the NCAA tournament, slow start, fast start. Like, the stuff gets so magnified. You have a slow start in a regular season game, so all right, well, we'll figure it out. Or a fast start, the other team will come back. The NCAA tournament, if the first 5 minutes go wonky, that can either propel you or spiral, depending on which side of it you're on.
Right. Well, it's all good teams at this point, right? And Syracuse had some big comebacks in the early part of the season, but, if you get down by 10 or 12, it's tougher to come back against an NCAA tournament team.
All right, let's bring in our next guest here into our Syracuse women's basketball NCAA tournament special. Brian Higgins, Tim Leonard with you, and now we do bring in Dyaisha Fair. Dyaisha, thanks for hopping on. Congrats on making the tournament. I think we're starting everybody out with this thought. Take us back to last night. You're watching the show. What's the moment for you like when Syracuse pops up on the screen?
It was, a really exciting moment for me and for our team, and also to have a few friends and family there to witness it with us was special.
And Dyaisha, I'm sure a lot of the Syracuse fans are kind of wondering, all right, where is Syracuse going to be playing? And it ends up being UConn, which there's some history of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee going Syracuse to Storrs in the first 2 games of the NCAA Tournament. But what was your reaction to seeing, okay, we're going to UConn. That's a team that we played a scrimmage against. Of course, you've got a game ahead of that, but you're making another trip to Storrs as you did earlier in the season.
But to know, we kind of played them and know what they're like early on this year. It was kind of good for us, I guess, seeing that, we may face them in the second round. But to know that we were able to make the dance, we have the opportunity to continue playing in March is more important than, who we're playing in March to me.
And you've gotten to play 1 tournament game so far in your career, Dyaisha. We were just talking about, we just had Georgia on, and obviously you and her both played in that game a couple of years ago when you were at Buffalo. Well, what do you take out of that experience? How different is the NCAA tournament as a game to be a part of than maybe any of the other games you play in during the course of the year?
I think the difference is, the energy that you have or that is in the air in March. I think March alone is what we call a madness. So I think that the energy is the best way I could describe it.
Dyaisha, let's go back maybe to kind of the off season ahead of this year. And I know you had the opportunity to maybe consider professional basketball ahead of this year, and you decided to come back. Coach Jack convinced you to come back for another year, and this is your last dance with Coach Jack. But, how close to maybe not coming back were you, and how happy are you now that you did make the decision based on how the season has gone, and now you get a chance for some of the biggest games of your career here in your 5th year?
It was a tough decision for me at the moment, just trying to see what would happen. You never know sometimes when it comes to making a decision like that, and nerves and different emotions kind of come into play. But it was a unbelievable thing to even have options at that point in your career. And she convinced me to come back because our job wasn't done. What we had to accomplish was not finished, and if there was more time, why not go after everything that we said we would go after? And realizing that is kind of what kept me back for this 5th year. And I kind of, I don't regret it, not one bit. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And I think that the best way that I could describe, being way back in the off season before this year, seeing how far we've come now and reflecting on my decisions, and I think that I just wouldn't change it.
Dyaisha Fair is our guest. We're getting you ready for Syracuse in the NCAA Tournament coming up Saturday at 3:30 against either Auburn or Arizona. Dyaisha, we had Coach Jack on to start the show today, and I don't know if she's prepared to let you leave. I know you're out of eligibility here at the end of the season. I don't know if she's actually going to let you out of here. Can you properly describe what the relationship is like between you and your head coach?
I think our relationship is more than just a coach and a player. I think over time she has grown into this mother figure for me away from home, and she's done the work. She's done the little things that no one would do, other than a parent, and in my opinion. And I think that we've come so far, and we've been through everything that we've been through, all of the unknown that no one knows about, all of those days in the dark, that it took to get where we are right now is what propelled our relationship to go where it has and continue to grow, whether we're, together or not, or, on the same court, on the same bench, in the same uniform or not. I think that she has been, again, my mom away from home, and she's kind of been like my best friend since we met.
No doubt. And Dyaisha, I've heard Coach Jack talk about kind of the first time that she watched you play in high school, and I think it was a camp. You can fill in some of the details if I'm not exactly right, but I remember her talking about how she said, all right, well, she seems pretty good. I'm going to check ball. I'm going to see how good she is when I go up against her, and she sort of joked about that experience. What do you remember about kind of the first time you met Coach Jack and maybe that pickup game that you played with her?
Yeah, I remember being at her camp, and she was watching me literally almost dismantle all the rest of the campers. And she thought it was funny to, say that she wanted to try herself. So we played a little bit. I think maybe the first time I got the ball, and she just guarded me, and I think I made one move, and she's like, oh no. And I think that was a special thing at one of her Jack Attack camps or their skills camps for my age group back then. But yeah.
All right, here we are getting ready for this game, and it's kind of crazy when the bracket flips over, right? It's not one team but two, so you guys don't know who you're playing this week. How does that factor into the week, Dyaisha, of getting ready for a game that you're not going to know for a few days who is actually against you?
It's kind of a weird situation, but we're ready. We're ready for whoever we have to play, and we didn't come this far to come this far. So, of course, we want to know. We would want to know early, but we're going to take whatever we were given.
Dyaisha, I'm sure you're going to be a lot of practices between now and Saturday, and it's going to be maybe 13 days, I believe, from the time that you played in the ACC tournament. So it's a little bit of a break here. As one of the leaders of the team, what's kind of your message to the team about how they should take practices this week and the attitude that they need to have going into Saturday's game in the first round?
I think the attitude would be being yourself, do what you do best, bring what you bring to the table, and, let all your work in the off season, in the summer, and stuff like that, and through the years, speaks for itself. And let's lock in as a unit. We go in, and it's, our family versus their team.
All right, last thing for you, Dyaisha. Hey, you've been playing college ball for a long time now. Here's your last crack at it coming up, and however long this run lasts this month. How does that hit you going in, knowing that this is your last time going through it here?
I've kind of put that on the back burner for now because we don't have time for emotion right now. So it hasn't hit me yet, and I'm just focused on the next game. We're going to take it one step at a time and one game at a time, and hopefully make a big run in this tournament. And when the run does end, or when it does come to an end, I'll stand and think about it.
All right, Dyaisha. Sounds like a good plan of attack. You leave the emotions to us. We'll be excited watching for you guys. We'll be all locked in Saturday afternoon. But good luck going forward, Dyaisha. And thanks so much for hopping on today.
Thank you.
There she goes, Dyaisha Fair, who couple nice games here. Tim, she'll be third all time on the NCAA scoring list.
Is that good? Yeah.
Is third good?
Yeah.
Third sounds good.
She is just born for taking a team on a run in March, you have to think. I mean, whether it's, if you want to make a men's game comparison, Kemba Walker or what Caitlin Clark did last year, it's kind of a cliche, but everyone says guard play matters in March. And if you have someone who gets hot at the right time, they can carry you. And, Steph Curry did in the men's game. But I think Dyaisha Fair is born for that type of stage. It feels like actually when they played up in competition this year, she has risen her game to a different level. And some of her better games have been when Syracuse has really needed her to score 30, 33, 36 and on some of the bigger stages of the season. And as we said, she was there at Buffalo and, she scored 25 against Tennessee on the road in that game. So I'm really excited to see what she brings in terms of March Madness, because I think it's gone under-discussed a little bit just how much fun she has been to watch from a national perspective. And there's going to be more national eyeballs on these games, and this is an opportunity for Dyaisha Fair to really, show not just Syracuse and the Central New York community, but show the entire NCAA watching community that watches college basketball just what she's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tournament filled with stars. I mean, Caitlin Clark stands alone in it right now. She's the biggest star, and this is not what she's the biggest star in college basketball.
Yeah,
there's not a men's college star that's bigger than Caitlin Clark right now, but. You look around, I mean, UConn Paige Beckers, obviously, she's a star in her own right. Juju Watkins at USC is just a stud freshman that's doing things. Angel Reese is still at LSU. If they play South Carolina, Camila Cardoso might have something to say about that.
Well, how about the second round matchup for LSU? If it could be Haley Van Lith against her former team, Louisville.
Yeah,
that's spicy.
Yeah, that was an accident. I'm sure that just happened accidentally and organically. That's how these things do. But it's an interesting tournament here with the women. I think we find this. I mean, Dyaisha here, she's in it 5 years. Caitlin Clark, 4 years. Angel Reese, 4 years. Juju Watkins for USC as a freshman, but she's probably going to be there for 4 years.
Yeah.
I think it's really helping the women's game right now that, us just sitting here casually can identify, quickly, an All-American team of legitimate stars in the game right now.
Yeah, you look at the men's bracket, and it just doesn't feel like there's that much star power compared to the women's game right now. Not to just constantly compare and contrast the two tournaments, but I'm just really excited because there is a lot of history of watching some of these players on the women's side, and NIL has convinced the women's players to definitely come back. It was kind of always that way, but now Caitlin Clark is making a lot of money, as she should, for what she's doing for Iowa and growing the popularity of college basketball. And, just thinking about players maybe going up against their former team, our next guest in a little bit here will be Elena Rice. She played for Auburn. That's where she started, or actually she didn't start her college career there, but, her second season was at Auburn. She played a year there, and if Auburn wins against Arizona, boom, it's going to be Auburn and Syracuse, two of Elena's teams there dueling in the first round.
Yeah, when Elena gets on, I'll ask her this if she still knows anybody there.
Yeah, right.
It's 3 years ago. College basketball changes so much. All the people are gone. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Elena will be on here shortly. We'll be taking you up to roundabouts when Orange Nation starts today. Tim, what do you make of ACC in the draw? Notre Dame went on the late run. They ended up as a 2 seed, which was higher than I would have guessed, but they ran the table late and won the ACC tournament. Virginia Tech, we don't know Liz Kitley's injury status. I'm guessing she's not going to play, but they haven't said out loud. Well, what do you think's in it with NC State's a 3? What do you think's in it for the league that got 8 teams in this year?
Yeah, first off, I was a little surprised Miami didn't get in, and then there was the whole situation that we were kind of joking about off air with the women's NIT. They were the top overall seed, right? And then
they got announced. The NCAA made something called the WBIT this year.
Yep.
Which is new and exciting. Here's how dumb it all is. The NCAA on the men's side runs the NIT. On the women's side, the WNIT is run by a separate organization out of somebody's basement in Colorado. That's a very minor exaggeration. It's more minor than it should be.
Yeah.
So the NCAA basically made, instead of buying it, they made their own NIT, called it something else, and now there's 3 postseason tournaments. So Miami, who thought they were in the tournament, got named the number 1 overall seed of the WABIT. And after they made the whole bracket, they're like, yeah, we're not playing in that. No.
We're not wasting our time.
So James Madison is now the number 1 overall seed. They weren't in the tournament before.
Yeah, that's just fascinating. I thought for sure Miami would get in. I mean, they beat NC State at home. They've had a nice year, and the ACC, as we've talked about all year, is an outstanding league. So I thought they were going to get 9 teams in, which would have been a record. They have now gotten 8 teams in. I think it's 4 or 5 years in a row, though.
It's most every year.
Yeah, so it's outstanding just how consistent that league has been. But Virginia Tech is going to be interesting. Kenny Brooks, their head coach, I saw a clip last night. He was talking about Liz Kitley, and he's not going to reveal whether Liz Kitley's playing, but he was like, well, we'll kind of test her out and see. So,
sure.
I mean, Notre Dame, Kylie Watson is out for the year with an ACL injury, and Niele Ivey just came out and said that. So if it's an ACL injury, you think we would know about Liz Kitley. But then again, why would they tell us anything, right?
When it's not your best player, you can say it out loud.
Yeah, that's true. It's a big difference. Liz Kitley is so important to what Virginia Tech does.
Yeah. When are they going to announce she's out for the year with an ACL injury? 15 minutes before tip-off? I'm going to guess it's coming. Unfortunately. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'd love to see her play one more time in the tournament because they made such a great run last year all the way to the Final Four. Awaiting Elena Rice to hop on as we wrap up our coverage. South Carolina, a clear favorite to you, Tim, or is it closer than it's being made seem?
I think they are a clear favorite. I saw the Vegas odds are pretty much even that they're going to win it all.
Yeah,
basically.
The field, the last one I saw somewhere is that South Carolina is a favorite, and you could get plus money on the field.
It's like betting Tiger Woods in golf, right? Like, it doesn't make sense.
It's a prime Tiger Woods bet.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, I think Iowa is the team that everyone is going to be focused on. I'm very intrigued to see if we do get to the Elite Eight and it's Iowa-LSU again, national championship rematch. That will definitely draw eyeballs. And it's worth noting because for those that are in the area, Albany is where that regional game will be. So Caitlin Clark is going to Albany, and that should draw some big numbers. Kind of interesting that UConn, you think they would put them in Albany, and that would increase ticket sales. It's the Portland region that Syracuse is in and UConn is in. So if the Orange make the Sweet 16, that means they're hopping on a flight after their game Monday, probably, and heading right out to Portland and getting ready for a West Coast Sweet 16.
Yeah, it was kind of wild, actually. I mean, to see the UConn region not being funneled into Albany. That is why Albany has ended up with regionals in the past, because it is near Connecticut. Like, it's why it exists as a thing. I may head home next weekend, Tim, and just try to get in the ticket scalping business. Get in the Caitlin Clark business. I don't know. It's going to be wild in Albany. And, Clark ended up with, in many ways, the toughest region. That Iowa's the 1 seed, UCLA, which has been a great team all year, is the 2, and then the defending national champion, LSU, is the 3. So Iowa, if they make the Elite Eight, regardless of who's against them, assuming it's either UCLA or LSU, they are going to have perhaps the hardest path to get to the Final Four, which ESPN execs will be somewhere in the corner praying on both knees that she doesn't get knocked out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do feel like Syracuse's region is maybe the easiest, not to say that, it's still going to be very challenging to get through the region, but USC, the 1 seed, Ohio State, the 2 seed. There could be an intriguing matchup there in the second round between Ohio State and Duke, because Celeste Taylor, who was Duke's arguably their best player last year, now plays for Ohio State. So that's another one where it's like former team and transfer portal and some juicy storylines there. But Virginia Tech is the 4 seed. I would have to think Gino Auriemma and UConn are sitting back and thinking, man, we actually could make a run in this region the way that UConn is playing. Now, it's not going to be easy. And the thing about UConn is they've dealt with some serious injuries to the point where they're playing 5.5 players right now, basically in every game, but they're still playing great on defense and playing right at the right time, it seems like.
And with Paige Beckers, they have shortlist one of the best players in the country, not named Clayton Clark. And 2 years ago when Paige Beckers or 3 years ago when Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark were freshmen, she was the best player. She was the future of the game. And then, she tore ACL one year, and Caitlin's done everything that she's done over the last few years, so it was well deserving. Do we have Elena? Okay, we got Elena here, so we got a few minutes here with Elena as we wrap things up. Let's bring in Elena Rice to the show now. All right, Elena, let's take it back to last night, and thanks for hopping on here. What was it like, not only when Syracuse flipped over and you saw it, how long did it take you to realize you might be playing against one of your old schools there in the first round?
Nah, it was crazy. It was like, yo, what a coincidence. It really made me think, like, how stuff come in full circle moments. And it's like, it was really like everybody was calling me from my own team. It was so like a moment. Like, it was, I don't know. It was great, but it's just so it's like crazy to me that that actually happened.
Yeah, Auburn, if they beat Arizona, will play Syracuse on Saturday at 3:30. Elena, we were just kind of joking about it. It's been a little bit since you've been at Auburn. Who do you still know there, if anyone, really? And what was kind of your initial reaction, I guess, to seeing that it could be Auburn?
Oh, who do I still know there? I still know, like, Honesty, and I know a little bit of Marshawn, but that's about all the people that I really know there. And then my honest shock, I was just like, wow. Like, my emotions are all over the place. I was like, wow. Like, it really shocked me because who would ever thought? Like, who?
Hey, that's how fast the college basketball changes these days. It's not that long ago you were there. It's just that nobody hangs around anywhere anymore. And, you know, Elena, you're 5 years into it now, but this is your first crack at the tournament. What do you think this is going to be like for you getting on that court on Saturday for your first chance to play in this thing?
I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited, and I've never been to March Madness, so it's like a whole nother feel of a different postseason. So I'm just excited for it and ready to embrace it for what it is.
And I'm sure this was a big reason why you decided to come back, use that last year of eligibility, Elena, was to play on a big stage like this and make a run in the NCAA tournament. Take me back maybe to your decision time when you were deciding, should I stay or should I go, basically. And Coach Jack has brought up how she texted you in the middle of last season and really was trying to convince you to come back early on even. But what do you remember about the decision, and just how happy are you that you ended up coming back for one more year here at Syracuse?
I'm really happy because I actually, like, throughout this fifth year, I've hit 1,000 points. I've done a lot of things, like a lot of monumental things I've done this year, and I'm excited that I came back, and I'm happy. I can't lie.
All right, take us into prep for this game. For one, all the talk with you that it's Auburn, it just as easily could be Arizona, which is going to be kind of weird for this week.
Yeah.
How do you handle getting ready for a game where you don't know who you're getting ready for right now?
You just go into the mindset of taking care of both teams, watching them both, see what you can pick out of one team and what you can pick out of the other team, and find their weaknesses and just go off that. That's how I do it.
And Elena, we've talked a lot throughout the course of the hour-long show here about how you guys did make a trip to Storrs and you did a closed-door scrimmage with UConn. First, you got to take care of business in the first-round game for there to be a chance that you see UConn in the second round. But what do you think that experience might do in terms of helping you, knowing that, all right, you're getting on a bus and you're going to kind of a familiar spot where you sort of started the journey of the season this year?
Yes, it shows that we know what we're expecting and we know what we can get out of this. We know who we are and we know where we started from and how we have grown since then. So we know the mistakes we made back then probably won't be the same mistakes we make this time. So I think we would do a lot better this time. So, yeah.
You know, we just had Dyaisha on, and this will apply to you too, Elena. You've been playing ball for a long time. You're getting ready to line up for, you know, whatever game it is here. It's going to be the last one. Does that hit you at all? Do you put that in the back? Do you use that to drive you? How do you handle that getting into the tournament?
Honestly, I haven't thought about it that way, but like I'm just trying to, you know, keep progressing, and then when it actually does hit like that moment, then there it is. But like I'm just trying to keep getting these next couple of games going until I make it to the top. And then I'm fine.
Right. That's the right attitude. I wanted to ask you, Elena, just sort of overall, we talked about your time at Auburn, and you've had quite the journey as a player where you've seen a lot of different head coaches, and you were in the midst of a lot of coaching changes. Then this year you come back, and I believe this is the only year you've actually had the same head coach in back-to-back seasons with Coach Jack. Just how much has that helped you knowing that, all right, I've actually got the same head coach this year going into this season?
It's helped me a lot because it's she knows me at least a little bit more than all the other coaches that I went through. She knows exactly my style of play. She knows what I can do and what I'm going to do. So it just helps the relationship a little better.
All right, Elena, we're up against the clock here, but thanks so much for hopping on with us for a few. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll all be watching, but thanks for hopping on.
Wait, can y'all tell everybody to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat and everything I got?
Yeah, follow Elena. Elena's electric on the socials. You got to get after her. Go search Elena Rice on all the various social medias. She's out there. All right, Elena. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll be watching on Saturday. We do need to run. Orange Nation needs to start on time here. There's a lot to talk about in the Orange basketball.
She is a great follow, though.
She's got a lot going on, so do check her out. So we're going to wrap things up here for Tim. I'm Brian. Orange Nation's coming here in just about 3 minutes.